The most important relationship that you'll have in your life is not with your girlfriend or wife. It's with yourself. If you have a toxic relationship with your girlfriend and she's always insulting you or putting you down, that's bad, but at least you can leave her physical proximity so you don't have to listen to her anymore. But you are stuck with yourself all hours of the day. If you have a toxic relationship with yourself and your mind is filled with negative self-thoughts and you're always putting yourself down, that is way worse. Life is brutally hard and it's full of challenges and suffering, and there's no shortage of people who want to exploit you and manipulate you. It's difficult enough as it is. There are plenty of enemies out there. The last thing you need to be is your own enemy. This is why psychologists always talk about the importance of self-esteem, because life is so much more manageable when you have a positive relationship with yourself. But self-esteem is not some arbitrary quality. It can't just manifest out of thin air. We can't just give everyone participation trophies and expect them to feel good about themselves. True self-esteem is based on real accomplishments, real evidence of your quality. Now, some people promote this idea that self-esteem can be entirely intrinsic, like it doesn't matter what other people think of you so long as you're happy with yourself. Now, I am sympathetic to this point of view because I think on the whole, we tend to place too much importance on the opinions of other people, and we should be striving for psychological independence and autonomy. But I am skeptical as to how far you can go with that. I certainly don't think that you can apply it as an absolute. You can't be entirely self-referential and completely ignore the opinions of others. There must be a natural limit because we did not evolve in isolation. We evolved as part of social groups, tribes, and human beings are intrinsically social creatures. This is one of the reasons why social media is so addictive to people, because it plays on those ingrained instincts we have to pay attention to social feedback. So obviously we can take it too far with things like social media, but you're never going to be able to get rid of this instinct entirely because it's hardwired into our biology. We have deeply held instincts encouraging us to take notice of where we exist in the social hierarchy and then to adjust our self-esteem accordingly. It's not entirely irrational. If everybody is praising you and constantly telling you what a great guy you are and they're desperate to spend time with you, well then chances are you're probably a great guy and this social feedback is useful, it's accurate. Likewise, if everybody is constantly criticizing you and going out of their way to avoid you, if you have negative self-esteem and negative thoughts about yourself, well, that would seem most likely to be an accurate reflection of reality. But here's where it gets dangerous, because it's not as though the world gives you perfect social feedback. If you are an amazing individual, you're talented and intelligent, does that mean that automatically all of the feedback that you're going to get is going to be uplifting and positive? Yeah, right. No chance, because people will be jealous. People will be too dumb to actually see the merits of your gifts. Other people close to you might have a vested interest in restricting the growth of your self-esteem because they get tremendous benefits by being in proximity with you, and they don't want your ego to get too large. They fear that if you become too confident and your self-esteem rises too high, then you're not going to want to associate with them anymore. You'll move on to other things and you'll leave them behind. So you see, it's in their selfish interest to manipulate you and to keep your self-esteem low. Social feedback is not a perfect reflection of your merits. It can't be. And this is what I want to warn you against, because if you're in a relationship with a woman or just casually dating her, you need to be aware that every time you accept disrespect or you listen to some insult or criticism and you don't defend yourself, automatically it's going to have the effect of lowering your self-esteem. The psychological mechanism that's at play here is one of backwards rationalization. There's a voice in your head that asks, what kind of man would take an insult from a woman and then not defend himself or stand up for himself? Well, I guess a low-value man who doesn't deserve to be treated with respect or dignity. When you're insulted and you just let it go, your brain needs to make sense of that. Like, why did I listen to that criticism and not say anything? In order to make sense of that, it concludes, I guess I must be a low-value man. Because if I was a high-quality man who deserved to be treated with respect, I would have objected. You might not have had low self-esteem beforehand, but your brain needs to make sense of what just happened. Why didn't you defend yourself? Well, I guess it's because I didn't deserve to be treated any better than that. You see this in abusive relationships, where the abusive partner works on gradually reducing the self-esteem of their partner by treating them worse and worse over time. At first, it can be quite mild. It starts out just by accepting the eye rolling, then the subtle criticisms, then the jokes at your expense. Soon it graduates to explicit criticism, to full-on verbal abuse, and sometimes even violence. The abusive person just keeps upping the ante in small increments, and eventually the abused partner is accepting behavior that they never would have accepted at the beginning of the relationship. But gradually their self-esteem has been eroded, and any belief that they once had that they deserved to be treated better is completely gone, and now they just accept the abuse. This is the dark side of how the social feedback mechanisms in your brain can be hacked by malicious people who have the specific intention of reducing your self-esteem so that you're more easily manipulated and you won't object to their abusive behavior. Now, I'm a man, and this is a channel that is specifically created for a male audience, and so I always speak in those terms, but you can see this is not a gender-specific thing. Whether it's a man who's grooming his partner to accept him having affairs, to hitting her, to disrespecting her in front of the children. It's the same psychological mechanism that's at play when a woman is grooming her male partner to accept her flirting with other men, to throwing things at him, to belittling him. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Romantic relationships at their peak can be wonderful, the absolute high point of your existence. They can be amazing, but they can also be total hell and misery, and it is better to be alone and single than to be with an abusive person. But talking of affairs and physical violence, that's all very, very extreme. What I want to do is demonstrate how this principle of backwards rationalization and your self-esteem being affected by the degree to which you accept disrespect and insulting behavior, that can operate in much more mild scenarios. Like, imagine you have scheduled a date with a woman and she turns up 20 minutes late. Now, ordinarily, it's not a big deal. You know, you wait the 20 minutes, you pull out your phone, you're just scrolling through. When she arrives, she's full of apologies. You accept the apologies and you move on. You have a great time. But what if she doesn't apologize? What if she turns up and instead says something like, "Oh, I didn't realize that you were going to get here so early. Oh well, let's go inside." That is an extremely awkward position that she has put you in, because it was disrespectful to turn up late, and doubly so for not apologizing for it. So what do? Do you bring it up and risk upsetting her, ruining the date and wasting your time? Or do you try and forget about it? Just let it go. Don't make a big deal about it. Because if you move on, no harm done, right? Wrong. There is harm done, and it's to the relationship with yourself. Remember the backwards rationalization mechanism. What kind of a man does a woman turn up late to a date for? The kind of man who's low value, who doesn't deserve to have his time respected. What kind of man accepts disrespectful behavior without complaint? A man who doesn't deserve to be treated with dignity. You cannot stop your brain from having these unconscious thoughts. It's how it's trying to make sense of the world and your place in it. The psychological mechanisms that we have for social feedback are too deeply ingrained in our biology to be ignored. In a situation like this, the only way to preserve your self-esteem, your relationship with yourself, is to stand up for yourself. In order to save the relationship with yourself, you have to risk your relationship with her. Now, that doesn't mean being all emotionally reactive, acting all butthurt and demanding an apology. You can be a lot more classy than that. You can be strategic. Don't bring it up straight away. Give it some time. Let the evening unfold. And then later on, when she's having a good time, she's smiling and she's laughing, then bring it up. Hey, just quickly, can we talk about what happened earlier? Because I understand, like, things come up and sometimes you're late, but just so you know, punctuality and being like my time respected, that's an important personal value of mine. So in the future, if you're going to turn up like late, like you're running late, I'll just appreciate a courtesy text. Just let me know. No need to shame her. No need to be overly punitive. Just stating what your boundaries are, what standards you expect, and then asking her to respect those. Because you waited until she was in a good mood and she was having a good time, she's not going to be defensive. She's going to want those good times to continue. And so suddenly, because you brought this up, she's feeling embarrassed and ashamed of her behavior. She was enjoying it when you were giving her that positive attention, but temporarily you've taken that away and you've asked something for her, and she's going to want to get back on your good side, so she's going to apologize. "Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. Yep, that was terrible. That won't happen again, I promise." It is a masculine trait to be patient and strategic with your timing. A low-value man is emotionally fragile, and he starts arguments and picks fights at the whim of his emotions. A high-quality man has more self-control, and he knows that he's more likely to achieve the outcome that he desires if he's strategic about his timing and picks the right moment. And so now you see the positive side of the social feedback mechanism, because backwards rationalization is now working in your favor. What kind of man doesn't tolerate disrespectful behavior, but instead states his standards and boundaries and requests that the woman that he's with respect those boundaries? A high-quality man. Every time that you're assertive about your standards and how you expect to be treated, you are reinforcing your positive self-esteem. If she's nagging or making subtly sexist comments, stand up for yourself. If she's flirting with other men and embarrassing you in public, stand up for yourself. Whatever it is, take it as an opportunity to lay out your expectations for the behavior of people who want to associate with you. So long as you're not being controlling or domineering or threatening, there is nothing wrong with calmly explaining what your personal standards are and expecting people to meet them. Too many guys have that scarcity mindset. You know, they think it's so difficult to get a woman's attention and to get a woman to like me. I just need to tolerate whatever behavior she throws at me because it's the best I can get. That strategy does not work, because it turns out women are not attracted to men who tolerate disrespect, because it indicates low quality, it indicates low self-esteem. Women are attracted to men of high quality, of high self-esteem, who know that they deserve to be treated with respect and won't tolerate anything less. It communicates confidence and masculinity, and these are the driving forces of a woman's sexual attraction for a man. It's the ultimate irony that so many men are terrified of having standards and expecting women in their life to meet those standards. But women actually like it because they want that reassurance. They want to know that if you have positive feelings towards them, it's not because you're a low-value male who is just desperate for anything that he can secure. It's because you're actually a high-value guy and she has met those high standards. If she manages to secure you as a partner, it instantly validates her as a high-quality woman. But just remember, you cannot be a hypocrite. You're not entitled to anything, and you need to give respect to gain respect. If you want to be in a relationship with a high-quality woman, then you must be a high-quality man. Is there an evolutionary explanation for why human beings seek meaning in life? Should you talk about politics with women? And is it possible to date a woman who slept with more people than you have? All of these topics and many more are covered in exclusive videos available on my Patreon page. This includes the topic of my latest video, should men ever turn down sex? In this video, I talk about the cultural stereotypes that reinforce this idea that men should always be open and available for sex. And I talk about the numerous reasons why men might have a low libido and very little interest in sex. I talk about the degree to which it's natural or normal for a man to have a stronger sex drive than his partner, as well as why women have such a difficult time respecting the sexual boundaries of a man. Lastly, I talk about the collaborative approach that you should employ in your relationships, where you assert your own boundaries, but do so in a way that's not manipulative or controlling. If you've been curious to know to what degree men have a right to assert their limits to their own sexual expression, I highly recommend you check out this video. For every video that I post here on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that at the moment, you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you would like access to the other half, then please go and sign up at my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription, and you get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive videos. It's a wonderful way to support the channel, and I would love to see you over there.